I want to ask you to perform a very simple thought experiment with me. Imagine that you can create a human being from nothing. You can design this person down to the last detail. Every cell, every strand of DNA. Now, as you're designing this creature, you have a choice. You can make them resistant to disease, or you can design them so their cells will sometimes go rogue and multiply uncontrollably, consuming them from the inside, eating them alive while they're still children. Which would you choose? I ask because this is not hypothetical for billions of people. This is, they claim, exactly what their God has done. And when I point this out, when I mention childhood leukemia or bone cancer, I'm told I'm being emotional, that I don't understand the deep theological answer. Well, I've heard the deep theological answer, and I'm afraid it's not very deep at all. Let me start with what should be obvious. If there is a designer, he's an incompetent one. Evolution has meant that our prefrontal lobes are too small, our adrenal glands are too big, and our reproductive organs are apparently designed by committee. This is a recipe which is very certain to lead to unhappiness and disorder. But that's just the beginning. The human eye, so often held up as evidence of design, is wired backwards. The photoreceptor cells face away from the light. The nerves obstruct vision. An engineer who designed a camera this way would be fired. But we're not here to talk about everyday incompetence. We're here to talk about childhood cancer. If you want evidence that either God doesn't exist or he's a monster, look at a children's cancer ward. Look at children with their hair fallen out from chemotherapy, children who weigh 40 pounds at age 10, children in agony from tumors pressing on their spines, children whose parents can only sit and watch them die slowly. This is what your benevolent designer has created. Now, someone always says, but free will, evil is the price we pay for freedom. Fine, interesting argument. Tell me, what does childhood leukemia have to do with free will? Did the child choose to get cancer? Did the parents choose it? Did anyone exercise their free will to cause a tumor in a 6-year-old's brain? No. Free will might explain human evil, murder and theft and cruelty, but it explains nothing about childhood cancer, nothing about malaria, nothing about the parasitic worm that burrows through the eye, nothing about the virus that causes cervical cancer in young women. These things are not the result of human choices. They're the result of biological design. And if there's a designer, he designed them deliberately. The free will defense fails, utterly. The next response, God works in mysterious ways. We can't understand his plan. This is not an argument. This is the surrender of argument. It's the white flag of theology. But let's take it seriously. Suppose there is some cosmic purpose to childhood cancer that we're too limited to understand. Then we can't call God good, can we? Because good means something. It means preventing suffering when you can. It means protecting the vulnerable. If God's plan requires the torture of children, requires babies to scream in agony from bone cancer, then either God is not good, by any definition of the word, or the word good has no meaning when applied to God. You can't have it both ways. You can't say God is good and also say we can't understand what good means. That's word games while children die. So let me ask you, what kind of God creates a world where children get cancer? What kind of designer creates parasites that survive by burrowing into the eyes of children? What kind of loving father creates babies born with their organs outside their bodies? What kind of merciful deity creates a virus that liquefies internal organs, causing victims to bleed from every orifice? These aren't mysteries. These are obvious indictments. Now let me address what might be the most obscene part of religious responses to childhood cancer. Prayer. When a child is diagnosed with cancer, the faithful immediately begin praying. Pray for little Emma. God answers prayers. Let me be very clear about what you're claiming. You're claiming there's an omnipotent being who created the universe, and this being is waiting to hear from you before deciding whether to cure a child's cancer. Think about this. It means God gave the child cancer in the first place, or at least allowed it. It means he has the power to cure it instantly. And it means he's waiting to see if enough people grovel before him before he'll do what any decent person would do automatically. This is moral blackmail dressed up as spirituality. And when the prayers don't work, when the child dies anyway, the response is always, God said no. It was his will. He needed her in heaven. So, let me understand. God needed a 6-year-old with cancer. The creator of 100 billion galaxies needed a terrified child in Cleveland. This isn't theology. This is obscenity. And when the child does survive, when the chemotherapy works, when dedicated doctors and nurses save a life, who gets the credit? God. The same God who gave the child cancer, who made them suffer for months, who let them go through hell. He gets thanked for answering prayers. The doctors, the researchers who develop the treatments, the nurses who work double shifts, they get a polite nod. But the real credit goes to the deity who was apparently torturing the child until enough people begged him to stop. This is not just false. It's morally repugnant. I've visited children's cancer wards. I've seen parents sitting vigil by beds, holding the hands of their dying children. And I've noticed something. The parents who cope best are usually not the ones telling themselves God has a plan. They're the ones who understand this is a terrible roll of the dice, that the universe doesn't care, but that human beings do care, that doctors and nurses are fighting like hell to save their child. The parents who suffer most are often the religious ones because they have to reconcile their faith with what's happening. They add spiritual anguish to their physical and emotional anguish. And the children, they don't pray for miracles. They just want the pain to stop. They just want to go home. So here's what I say to anyone who asks why childhood cancer disproves God. It doesn't disprove God. Nothing can disprove an unfalsifiable claim, but it makes the claim of a benevolent, omnipotent God absurd. If God is all-powerful and allows childhood cancer, he's not benevolent. If God is benevolent but can't prevent childhood cancer, he's not all-powerful. And if God works in mysterious ways we can't understand, then we have no business calling him good. This is not sophisticated theology. This is simple logic. Logic any child could follow if they weren't being indoctrinated not to ask these questions. We're told that doubt is dangerous, that asking why is a kind of sin, that we should just have faith. But faith is not a virtue when children are dying. Faith is surrender, and we should not surrender to comforting lies when the truth, however harsh, points us toward actual solutions. So if someone asks, if God is real, why is there childhood cancer? The answer is simple. There isn't a good answer. There can't be. Either God doesn't exist, or he's not worthy of worship. I'd rather believe we're alone in an indifferent cosmos than believe we're the playthings of a cosmic sadist. Because if we're alone, we can do something about it. We don't need prayer, we need research. We don't need faith, we need funding for pediatric oncology. We don't need to understand God's plan, we need to understand cellular biology. And we don't need to make peace with childhood cancer by calling it God's will. We need to cure it. Thank you.